tired. I'm still working. But yes, we're going to get started. So here, um, we'll just start with the opener. I've I've been it before I ask the question. So hello, my name is Arthur Thomas. With AOS San Diego. Um, basically, here pushing a lot of things that are necessary for the community in San Diego that I've seen by being a part of a lot of organizations. I feel like some things are missing, and when it comes specifically to the black community. Um, and as you're looking out in the area, we're in the fourth district. Me personally, I live in Mission Valley, the seventh district, and the tax base and the income base is what runs the community. And so we are pro finance. Like anything you hear me from, the base of it is always going to be um, jobs jobs and equity, and also in order to close the wealth gap, you need reparations. But you have to start where you are with the tools that you have locally, and so we have a lot of things on the ballot this year that will actually help us get closer to that. Make a lot of more African Americans in San Diego a lot more stable. One Prop 16, Prop 16, that's major because it will actually give us some I would say to give us a better footing when it comes to contracting and things that will actually help our family household. And yeah, so that being said, that's ADOS San Diego. I am the co-founder. Actually, I have ADOS Sacramento, ADOS LA in the building, and all
Came
these
all the way out.
guys technically, you know, are ADOS, but we are trying to make this more of a mainstream um, theme so that people can actually uh, feel empowered about who they are and not feel like secondhand citizens in a country that the hands built and they have a stake in the country. We look at our neighborhoods should look a lot better than this, and so this is the effort towards that. So I thank you guys all for being here, and we're going to start this off with Miss Monica.
I feel like I have to yell because the mask and my voice is tight. So, but thank you for being here. Thank you for having this. It's very, very important, especially when we talk about how we use our vote. So, we know that our vote coming up on the third, we're going to be voting on the penalty, we're going to be voting on state propositions, we're going to be voting for people, city council members, mayor, also voting for city manager. And I just, I want to stress that there's a lot of mainstream media that's focused for our federal government. The federal government is extremely important. But what happens here locally affects us most immediately. And so we really have to focus on the local races and what's going on at the state. Another reason for that is because as we cast our vote for president, most likely California will go blue and our electoral votes will go towards the Democrats, probably most likely. But for the state and local races, that's where the numbers actually count. That's where the actual numbers, actual votes actually really count. So we'll just go back to 2018, where I was elected city council for District 4. This, this, this used to be District 4 back in the day. This was a black community. It is no longer District 4 based on redistricting, but it is home. It is home for a lot of us third generation San Diego. It's home for a lot of my grandmother had a little house for us to use before she moved over to Bay Vista. So, this is home for us. The district split up. And what's important about that race is that it was one of the highest voter turnouts that we have seen in District 4 since we went to district only elections about, I don't know, that was 13, about 35, 40 years ago. And I truly believe that the reason for
before that, I did not have the support of the Democratic Party. I did not have the support of the Republican Party. I did not have the support of the business community. And out of all the many unions that we have in San Diego, there were two that endorsed me, the health workers and also SEIU Local 221. And they were not even a city union. They were a county union. I wasn't even running. So it was limited support from the institutions, but it was a people powered movement. And that was so important that we won in that way because it actually scared a lot of people in San Diego based on the way that we ran. It was important that we came together with that voter turnout at that time because it indicated number one, an interest in what's going on locally. But number two, it showed that there could be a different approach to this political game. You know, the sort of status quo normal approach is you have your consultant that doesn't know anything about the community. You have your comms person that doesn't know how to talk to people in the community. What you're doing is you're reading from the script that they give you. And then you're taking in money from the institution to get your name out there so that people can know who you are. We didn't do it like that. You know, it was a very professional brand approach, but it's also very heartfelt and it was very community centered. It was community led. And so, you know, I think it was a blessing for the community for so many reasons, not just for the representation, to show that we ourselves have that much power in the system, and that if we keep continuing that or replicating that, we can do that in different areas. You know? And so we have to do that strategically. We have to get together strategically and figure this out how we are actually going to make it work for the people. Because one seat won't do it. I sit on a body of legislative body with 800 people, and I have allies there. But the majority of people that sit there are still not only white in their race, but have a lot of privilege and lead like that. You know, that has been called into question, and people have been very open about their approach to changing the way they think. But that is a long process, and it did not happen in November 2018 where things just shifted. It takes a long time to get there. So anyway, very, very important to vote in our local races. We have a wonderful panel. We're going to go over some of the propositions. I'll just tell you this real quick. Measure B all day, every day. Go, 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 go. Before I got to council, Andrew will talk about this. I'm not going to steal her thunder. Just know that, and Marisa too, just know that it has taken us probably about a decade to get this thing where it is now. And so because of that people power movement, it is on the ballot. Now we have to take that last step forward. Proposition 16. My parents had a construction company. They still do now. But Proposition 16 works to repeal Prop 209. My parents lost everything in their construction. When the white people knew they didn't have to hire them, they lost everything. And so for that, we have at the city, we have contracts right now for black people less than 1%. Less than 1%. That will change because it will say, you don't just have to show a good faith effort that you gave somebody and say, here's the job. Right. You have to hire them. And so I'm very passionate about this election. I'm very passionate and hopeful about what it will do for the city of San Diego and the state of California. We just have to keep working. You know, we cannot quit. These people call us every day. These lobbyists from these different top companies and corporations call us every day to get on our calendar. Every single day. It's not just showing up at council meetings. It is showing up at council meetings, but it's also being informed and not quitting. We have to keep going. This is ongoing, lifetime commitment to democracy, and so that all people are doing the same goal. Thank you for having me. If I flipped out, I know all these people, so I know they're going to be fine. And I just want to thank you for organizing for having me.
All right, thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Monica, for being here. Next, we're going to have Chris from AUS Sacramento coming up speaking on Prop 16 and right or
I can do that too. And AB 3121.
AB
Yeah.
31.
Yeah, hold this on me. So, one, I want to thank everybody for being here. I drove, well, we didn't drive, we flew to LA and then had a crazy layover, a crazy delay in the flight. We had to drive from LA, go down to San Diego. I came out here to support my brother. I want to thank everybody that's here right now. These are the kind of gathering that I think we're going to go on in the action. A lot of times, we either city hall, city council, or there's a meeting somewhere, but it's not actually in the community where right? So one, I want to thank everybody that's here. And say one, shout out to my brother Michael. This is an important, I think, first step in a lot of what you're gonna see from the local group here. And by the way, I'm Chris. You're gonna tell in a minute that I got an East Coast accent, really from the East Coast. But I'm here to talk specifically about AB 3121, which is the California Task Force to Develop and Study Reparations Proposals for African Americans. This was passed in the California Senate, I want to say 2-3 weeks ago. The local ADOS teams, including my brother here, Michael, as well as the statewide group, were very, very involved in the passage of that bill. Assemblymember Dr. Shirley Weber is the first author on the bill, along with Senator Stephen Bradford. So, what does it do? Quite frankly, it creates a task force to develop and study reparations proposals for African Americans here in California, specifically those who are descendants of folks enslaved here in the United States. And task force does three things. It creates a group to one, study California's role. Two, figure out ways to educate the California public. And then three, figure out what's the best way to do compensation for those who are the descendants of those enslaved here in the state of California. It's modeled on the National Reparations Mission Bill, HR 40, if you're not familiar, which is the Federal Task Force Development Study Reparations Proposal for African Americans, same name, right? That bill is currently in Congress right now, and it is probably on its way out of the House sometime in the next soon, we hope. And the national ADOS teams are very much involved in that effort also. So what the bill does, it creates a task force to do those three things. The task force will have 9 members. 5 will be appointed by the governor, 2 by the speaker, and 1 by the leader of the California Senate. So there are 3 appointing authorities: governor, speaker, leader. The task force will come into existence by no later than June of 2021. So we got about 8 months or so to get this task force up and running. The task force will have to have people who are versed in and who know about reparative justice, restorative justice. And so we are very much looking forward to helping to make sure that this task force actually does a good job in making the kind of recommendations for reparations that we need here as folks who are the citizens in the United States. Quick segue, mentioned Prop 16. Prop 16, as the Councilwoman described, is a California state proposition that repeals Prop 209. So we like to talk about it as Prop 16 brings affirmative action back to the state of California. It makes a black agenda legal. And what Prop 16 will do will allow local governments, local cities, local counties to specifically target groups for economic and social repair. So, talking contracting, as you mentioned, we're talking educational opportunities, and anything that will be helpful to groups who are historically disadvantaged, our community. We will finally be able to specifically say we want to do something for Black folks. Right now, it's illegal to do that. So right now, you can't say I want to make a law or I want to make a policy that specifically helps Black folks. Right? That's technically illegal here in the state of California due to Prop 209, which was passed in 1995, 1996. Many of us weren't even able to vote back then. So now it's our turn, it's our generation's turn to decide whether or not and how we equal the playing field. Well, do more than equality and really shoot for equity, right? And that's what we do. So I'll stop there. We got a great panel. If there are any questions about Prop 16 or AB 3121, I'm here all day. Again, we came out here to support my brother here. We appreciate everybody that's here. I'm out here in San Diego, so I'm already loving it. So, and I want to get right to the panel, but thank you. Appreciate y'all. And I got you.
Hey y'all, I'm Nita. Y'all know. So the way that I understand this panel is going to be held more like a conversation and less like I'm gonna ask you questions. So first, we're gonna start with Tasha. I would like for everybody who's either running or ran for office to explain what office they're running or ran for, and what does that mean to the people. And then I'll feed in with a little bit of questions to get some details in here. So Tasha, will you please?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tasha Williamson. I ran for mayor of San Diego. So we have two candidates that have proceeded on to the November ballot, Barbara Bree and Todd Gloria. I was the first Black woman to run for mayor here in San Diego. I came in fourth place, with a little less than $500 in a bank account. Got almost 6,000 votes. And really made sure that people understood that Black people exist, that disproportionate impacts are happening to us, and made sure that they can get and for mayor of San Diego is a position of power. And so the mayor is a strong form of mayor here in San Diego. Which means the mayor, which we have a current mayor, should not do whatever they want, but should do what the people want. And the mayor has the power to do that. The mayor has the power to override decisions of the city council in a form called veto. The mayor has a lot of power to make change. Our mayor has elected to be corrupt. One of the reasons why I ran is because of that long-standing corruption and lies that have been perpetrated and told to people in communities like this community and in District 4 and in other districts, all the way to San Ysidro, Linda Vista, City Heights. We have been lied to about what can change and what can't change in our community. How education could be supported by the city as far as the mayor. And a lot of money has been wasted by this mayor because we have a strong form of mayor. $120 million was wasted on a citywide computer system. Money was wasted in the water department in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Money has been wasted on one-on-one action, but nobody really talks about the waste of money in the police department. And the fact that they do not invest even that amount of money in grants and support to communities like ours and others. We have suffered under a strong form of mayor, not which was intended, but which happened. So we have to be careful who we vote for and how we vote. We need to be very educated. So I'm glad for everybody that's here and everybody that's watching, because we have to be educated on what power is, on what the rights are, on who you're electing and what their background is, and on propositions and bills and many, many other laws that are going to have to be on your ballot for your vote. And then also make sure that you apply everything that you can to learning more about the vote and the importance of the vote, as well as what you are voting for, and make sure you have filled out your forms for the citizens online as well, because that money generates back into our community. So that's it. I'm no longer on the ballot. I know some people have been saying vote for Tasha, but you cannot vote for me. I'm no longer someone who you can vote for. So make sure you figure out which mayor you're going to vote for. We are going to talk about that in depth later at another event. So it's important for us to vote for.
I want to understand more about the role of mayor in San Diego because there are multiple mayors. There's the mayor from Mesa, there's the mayor from Pro, and people consider that as part of San Diego. So could you explain like the jurisdiction of the mayor of San Diego, how that's different from like the Mesa?
Yeah, so the jurisdictions as far as city of San Diego has its own jurisdiction. Within the city of San Diego, you also have other, because I was in the county of San Diego, you also have other cities, and those have government, and have a diocese and stuff like that. So in our city, we have the mayor, we have under the mayor, Chris, I forgot her name, Chris Michelle. She really has a lot of power. The mayor signs seats, the mayor oversees the city, but the person under the mayor is the one who runs. The mayor is in control of the police chief and appoints the police chief. The mayor oversees budget and signs off on budget. The mayor can also grant money to nonprofits. The mayor has a discretionary fund that can grant money. But there are city council members that the mayor is directly in contact with to help each city and create a budget that helps those districts, not cities, those districts within the city. But the city of San Diego is a city that is government run by itself with the mayor at the top. But above the mayor is the people. And so I think that we forget that the people have the most power. And so even though we have a strong form of government, the mayor has to, at some point, bend to the people. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I know some people might, if you were going to be on the ballot in November, they would probably look for Tasha's name and it's not there, you know. So that's very important for people to understand. And I actually want to segue to Kenya. You're running for County Board of Supervisors, correct?
I ran.
Would you explain what that means to the people?
Okay, I sure will. Good afternoon. My name is Kenya Taylor. And as she mentioned, I ran for County Board of Supervisors in District 2. District 2 is the largest area in San Diego County, which incorporates El Cajon, La Mesa, Spring Valley, Lemon Grove, parts of Del Cerro, San Carlos, up to Poway, and way back to our rural communities. It's the largest area. Most people have no idea what the County Board of Supervisors does. For example, if you care about libraries, if you know the name George Bailey, that jail down in the South Bay, the County Board of Supervisors fund that. Actually, George Bailey was 2 supervisors ago in District 2. If you want to stop the pipeline to prisons, we need money allocated differently. If you care about the DA and the budget of the sheriff, that's the County Board of Supervisors. If you care about fires, we don't want to be the next Paradise, California. We've had fires out in the East County a number of times. People on this side of town are having an increase in asthma. Right now, we're dealing with COVID. We have our mask on here today. Public health is under the County Board of Supervisors. Also, if you think about safety, now safety can mean a lot of things. It can mean roads. It can mean people not killing us in our communities. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. The largest mental health program in the county should not be our jails, period. We need people in office that are going to be there to help us improve the quality of our lives, to build generational wealth. The Board of Supervisors has over a $6 billion budget, billion with the B. They deal with homelessness. The two of you can figure out homelessness for a few $1 billion. If they get money, billions and billions of dollars between the county, the city, every single year, and nothing is being done, Black people continuously are disproportionately homeless, Black people are disproportionately in jail, then the county board of supervisors means something to you. If you want your kids or yourself to go to the library, they're over that. They're over mental health. Now, I mentioned I'm a mental health provider. Most people I know went to jail didn't go having a mental health diagnosis, but by the time they left, they did. And they were on a bunch of medications. Yeah. I ran for office working in a reentry program, or after working in a reentry program that I quit when they wanted me to continue to build a program where the drug dealers were in the same group as the users. But that's capitalism if I never heard of it. Because they was just getting additional clients. Everybody wasn't there for the right reasons. But it's important to us because for 401 years, we've been talking about the same thing. Now, personally, I'm tired of being the face, seeing the Black faces on ads for all these organizations or community members receiving a table or $2,000 versus some of our allies receiving millions and millions and millions of dollars. Again, $6 billion budget. The great work that Tasha's been doing, the work you've been doing, and everybody else here, these programs should be funded by the county. They have discretionary funds. Why are they not using it to help uplift the people? Unfortunately, there's no cure or money in the cure. So some people want to keep exploiting us. I'm tired of it. So I encourage people to, whether it's supervisors, mayor, Congress, to vote at all levels because all of us matter. And it's not going to matter unless our voice is heard so we can shape policy. But I don't know about you, but it's time for us to start building generational wealth because without economics, and I want my 40 acres and a mule plus some tax on that. And so it's time for us to get what we're worth. We come from kings and queens, and people need to stop treating us as peasants. And so most people have no idea what the supervisor does, but they are there to supposedly represent the most vulnerable and weak. They should not be exploiting anybody. We need to put less money in our prosecutors, more money in our public defenders, so that we could get all those people out of jail. You know, we know in the 70s, I'm a 70s baby, and so we know families were divided then, they're divided now. I had a situation myself where you got to determine, do you keep the dad in the home? If so, he's not going to get public assistance. But people from other cultures do it all the time, and it's okay. I could go on. I'm sorry. I'm so passionate about this because I'm tired of seeing us die. I'm the mom of 23-year-old Black male twin sons. People keep making us promises. They keep lying in our face. And for 401 years, we're talking about the same thing. That's why we're here today. Again, we can't come from kings and queens. I ran because I'm tired of settling for crumbs. I don't like mediocrity. And it's time for us to build on our strengths and to have that generational wealth so that we could all thrive. You know, some people shouldn't be making $120,000 a year, and Black people only make about $20,000 a year. We need to make sure we have people at the table that care about us. And I encourage everybody to continue to vote, continue to support people like Council Member Montgomery, and get on boards and commissions so we could be the best that we could be. Thank you.
Is there any, because you both had mentioned, Tasha mentioned discretionary funds, you also mentioned discretionary funds. Is there overlap between like where the county board of supervisors govern and where the mayor governs as far as money is concerned?
One of the interesting things, the city, they have their own money.
Okay.
The county, they have their own money. So if we just speak about homelessness, you have the county with a whole bunch of money. For example, that $6 billion, we have $2 billion dealing with homelessness, housing, mental health, probation, child welfare, the welfare office, Medi-Cal, food stamps, $2 billion every single year. The city, they get money. They deal with homelessness and housing. But there's not a whole lot that's being done. If you go down most of these streets, you go downtown, there's a bunch of vacant buildings. The county and the city needs to be working together so we can have solutions. People want a roof over their head, they want to have dignity and respect, and they want to be behind a closed door. And so it's important to know that each supervisor, they get a couple $1 million annually that they can give to any community-based organization of their budget. But unfortunately, we get $500, $1,000. If you're lucky, you might get
Mini
2,500
grants. Yeah.
if you're lucky. But I keep seeing all the work that you're doing. You have a number of people in the audience here on this panel, got 5,000 friends plus, but yet we work tirelessly for free most of the time. And these people are getting millions of dollars. And when you look at their annual reports, they're only servicing about 150. It's unacceptable. And so the county, we have our own money. City, they have theirs. Obviously, Congress has their own as well. But there's not solutions for success. Results.
Okay. Let's go ahead and segue into the first district. That's where you ran for. Can you please explain to people what Congress means to the people?
Yeah.
So, thank you all for having me here today. I love being here. My grandfather actually owns this property that I'm on right now. So it's very important that we important conversation. So, really, the reason why I ran for Congress was if anybody knows area in which is my land is accountability. I'm able to look at it from equitable views. I'm able to look at it and hold people accountable and not that the check and balance is not fair, not equitable, not going after justice. And so that's really why I ran. Congress is all about checks and balances. Congress is, I say, is just as important as the president. The president, so we have a recent president office. The president is the one who checks off on the things that Congress and the Senate put forth and pass. And so when we have a president like what we have now, we need the Senate and the Congress, especially like with our judges, like that, we need the Senate and the Congress to look at things and represent the communities in which they come from. And we had in the 51st district, he's doing all right now, but we had somebody who was very absent from the 51st district. We had somebody who was not representing the people that got that position. And so anytime you have somebody who only shows up when they need you to vote for them, but you don't see them the rest of the time, and they're in Washington making decisions in their best interest, in their special interest, and not making decisions for the city, that's a problem. And anytime, I think as leaders and activists and advocates, we have had to be the problem solvers, the rescue. We're the ones that not only fight for the implementation, but half the time, like Kenya was saying, have to show up and do the implementation ourselves. And so that's the reason I came from a juvenile justice background. I was a mental health counselor for over 12 years, and I worked in the juvenile justice field. And I was constantly in rooms and spaces in white-led organizations where people were making decisions for my community and our children, but not using the money and the resources that they got from the government within grants and city funding and all these different types of funding. I was spending my own resources, my own money, extra time on the young people because that's what my community meant to me, right? And continues to mean to me. But it is, like Kenya said, it is crazy that all this funding is available and there, but it is misused, and we are misrepresented. And so I think like Monica was saying before, I think every part of government we should be a part of, and we should not be waiting until the last minute to get a part of it. Like right now we're in a panic and everybody's like, we got to do this, we got to do that. We should have been involved the whole time through, because the Black candidates who did, I had to stop running. Obviously, I got really ill in the hospital, but the Black candidates who were
and I make a joke out of it. Like the only reason why I was endorsed by pretty much all of the Democratic Party, I don't think because they liked me so much, but I think because they knew that I would show up and protest when you are going against what the need. When they went against Monica, we had to show up and shut them down because you're not going to continue to make decisions on our behalf and hearing our voice and ignoring our voice, right? And so that's really the reason why I think no matter what position it is, we need to have more Black representation and more diverse representation, not just diverse in our backgrounds and our skin colors and all of that, but diverse in thought. I hate the Democratic Party, on record saying that, and I hate the Republican Party. I believe that we need to move to a place where there is no party, right? Because people, we're not, we can be progressive in some areas and conservative in another area. We are not all just one thing, and these labels to stop because they are what is dividing us, especially particularly in the Black community. We don't have room or time for this, right? We don't have room or time to argue about if somebody is, Jamaican or African American. Like we need to, as Black people, we are all being oppressed. If you show up and you look like you are a person of color, you're Black, we are all being oppressed, suppressed, and there are people literally making sure that we are not engaged and we are not politically engaged. That's why it's so important to have not only these conversations, but to start in the beginning and really run. If that's your area and you know would be amazing at that, seriously, then then we will run. Okay.
I wanted to touch on Madam Montgomery mentioned that the district was redistricted. Lines change. District 54, or 51, excuse me. That means there are at least 50 other districts, right? District 2, and then the city of San Diego compared to the county of San Diego. How do I know where at the balance?
Yeah. So you can check right now. Oh, let me plug this real quick. We need more Black people to sign up for this. Just like Monica said, this is how they put us up. So we're already a small percentage within the right, or within San Diego County. And then on top of that, you redistrict in a way to make sure that we can't vote as a collective, right? And so if we are not on the committees and the decision making table, we continue to go through what we're going through, right? So, but you can check. I mean, there's also you're asking me such great questions because I can just plug everything. Since it's 2020, we have to fill out the census. That is one of the things that is used around districting, right? And who represents us and what resources that we get. So we have to fill out this 2020, and we have to make sure, and that happens only every 10 years. So, and it doesn't take that long, but it has to happen. But yes, you can look on those resources, like the census, or at your registrar of voters and see what district belongs to. You can put in your zip code. You can go online and put in who's my congressperson, and literally put your zip code and it will tell you your person. But we really like this should be back in Southeast. Monica should be our person over here. We need her. So I'm just saying. I'm just keeping her. Monica's laughing at me.
And I wanted to just kind of shift a little bit the conversation onto the census. Of course, there are people who are like, I don't want to get my information to the government. I actually worked for the census for like 2 whole weeks. It is a very interesting job. And there were people who were concerned about their citizenship, didn't want to talk to me. So do you guys have any comment to those in opposition of the census?
Well, I think that the government knows pretty much everything about us already anyway. I'm serious. I mean, you were just talking about elections. I could tell you when the last time you voted, the last 5 years, how many times you did. A lot of people don't know that information's out there. But people, we've written down our social security numbers. already. I think we're not counted correctly because there's so many people that do fear and don't trust the government. Which more than half the time I don't trust me because we've been exploited so much in my lifetime, going back to the days we were captured and things like that. And so to me, it's important for us to have appropriate funding so we can have the best appropriate funding so we can have nice roads. But I will say to people, if they go on social media, it's always going to be there. We can never get rid of that either. We have a blueprint. It's important to fill out those documents, get counted correctly, and it's part of the reason elected officials exploit us because they're saying, oh, well, we're only about 6% here, only about 12% here. Our voice doesn't matter. But I don't know about you, but every time I go to the store nowadays, I see a black person or a mixed person somewhere. The numbers are probably pushing 20%, if not more. And so we need to capture it in data. And one thing I know, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And that's why the electeds continue to ignore us because they're thinking, oh, well, in San Diego, you're less than 10%. So why even bother worrying about what you think? Our voices matter. And so I encourage everybody to fill out that census because, again, they already know stuff about you anyway. But it gives us funding so we can have a better life. I live in the East County, and we have access to some things that, unfortunately, when I lived in Oak Park, we didn't have access to. But it's because the community continuously fills out that census every 10 years. It's only every 10 years. And we need to make sure we have good schools because our schools are awful. Our kids are underperforming. I know we have a school board candidate right here for District E, but it's important that we have the best and stop settling for mediocrity. So please fill out that census. And they tricked us. Aren't they going to stop accepting census forms at the end of this month? It was supposed to be in October. So another way to make us miss out on things is to change the deadline. So people are thinking, oh, I'll wait. I have time. We don't have time. We need to do it today.
Dr. Luana, oh, your finger was up. So
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we talked about this. Really important to tell people, we're talking about a 5-minute action.
Yeah.
We're not talking about age, form. The question is not that it takes no time. So, I mean, just get it in. At the time we've been talking about it, we could have completed it probably about 2 times.
Yeah, when I was going around collecting count people, the longest it took me to enumerate a family was about 7 minutes, and they had 2 adults and 6 children. So, and there's information you don't have to give everything. Some people are like, oh, I have to give my name. You don't. You can. I put person 1 because the data that really counts is your ethnic background and your they call it racial background
And age.
and your age. Yeah.
And they're planning resources that are age.
Communities with more elderly people will get certain attention and things like that. I'm not on the panel. Okay. So,
but that's great information because with the supervisors, they're providing more funding for the older adults because they're filling out that census. So they're looking at 10 years ago and how many older adults we have. So they have all kind of money now. It used to be youth programs. It's seniors now.
did anybody from that's sitting down, did y'all have a question about anything? Because I have not. No?
So there's a lot of people who are concerned about family and I mean, I have strategies that I've come up with in terms of how to address that. But what are some of the ideas you have to make sure that they get to go first? But so they get their vote in, and it makes it safe to its destination. So if
So there's a group, that we are a block y'all community block party actually drop off their ballot, and then there's my dad drives it. My dad, he's gonna be driving. He's gonna be driving it to the actual location. That's more so for our seniors. We're also doing a caravan. We're doing a big caravan the day of, but we are really encouraging folks, don't wait the day of. We really need to be, especially really need to be voting the day that we think our ballots in the mail. And you can actually, I'm encouraging a lot of people. I mean, it might seem simple to folks who've been voting for a while, but those who haven't really been engaged around voting, for them, it is a complicated system, right? And so we have to really take down the barriers that are holding people from actually getting out. Some people don't trust the mail system right now, and but they don't have the transportation. So making sure that we're providing transportation, making sure that you're accountable to a person or a group of people, making sure that young people are registered to vote, and that if we got to do a party bus, which we're planning on doing, you're going to do a party bus so that we can get those ballots. So it's like really creative ways to address the barriers that are already in place in communities of color, and making it simple and easy, as like simple as possible. Also, really encouraging people to do what I did with my friends last year. Is we went out to eat and we literally filled out the ballot. They didn't know what they were doing, so I literally helped fill out the ballot. I know personally most of the candidates, and I would tell them what each one was about, and then they would make their decision or proposition, what propositions meant what, and then at dinner we literally sat down and filled it out, right? And so things like that, I really take it personal and hold myself accountable, because I understand that politics is not taught in our educational system. She's going to change that, but and really, and that's done strategically, right? And that's done for a reason, right? Our kids are introduced to the criminal justice system, but they're not introduced to their role and what they can contribute to politics. And so we need to change that. And that starts with elected people that are really, yes, we have a Black person in this position right now. But again, just like we have to vote Roberta Cole out, we have to vote another person out around education, because they are special interest versus right for our young people. It's all important.
What I really want people to take away is that you can mail in your ballot, and I've seen on social media, make sure you put 2 stamps. California mail-in ballots are paid. You don't need to put stamps. You can drop it off yourself, or you can designate someone to drop it off for you. So there are options. Just wanted to summarize that. Yep.
So on the third, I'm actually hosting a ballot party at 11 o'clock to educate people around the proposition. There's so many propositions that's complicated. We have a lot of people who are in prison right now because of laws that passed on the day they didn't go vote. And right now, we have initiatives on the ballot that are going to give people the right to vote back. And so if we don't pay attention, they can say, well, you didn't even care to get up and vote. Voting is free. And after the ballot party, actually want to do a caravan the first day that you can turn in your vote, because whatever we can do to get those votes in early and make the process easier, the better our whole election process is going to be this year. And I don't know about you, but I don't want any messy decisions.
Yeah, that part.
I mean, I'm always on, and I don't trust all the people out there. I don't, because if you put your ballot in a mailbox, somebody decides to try to sabotage that mailbox, your ballot soiled, votes are probably not going to count. Yep. And so to avoid that, like you were saying, do those caravans, make it fun. But people, it's important for them to know what they're voting for, who they're voting for. Also, for some people, they create their own list of candidates, propositions, so forth to vote for, so people know. A lot of things that we talk about in these community meetings, when you go knocking on a door talking to people, they have no idea. They are worried about child care. They care about gas prices, not how they can get back to work or how they going to feed their family. And so sometimes keeping it simple, but like Dr. Richmond said, making it fun, because people don't realize that everything is political. From, the seats on a bus, seats on a bench, stop home or unsheltered people from laying down. And so this election is more critical, but also making sure that our local initiatives or propositions or candidates are voted on, because our voice matters and it really shapes our future. And if people know that we're voting, and all of a sudden candidates start realizing, oh, in 92114 or 92113 or 92154, they're voting in bigger numbers, people will change their policies. But if they're looking for the last 5 years, how did people vote, or did they vote? And they know it's a low voting area, the consultants, just like they told me, don't worry about that area. Yep. Literally. And I'm saying, what do you mean don't worry about an area? You don't throw people away. But that's how a lot of politicians do things. They worry about who's going to get them elected and who's going to get them reelected. So we need people who care about people to make our lives better.
You had mentioned like a list of what to vote for, who to vote for. And I see Buy Black San Diego. Didn't you guys have a form that was similar or did something like that?
Yeah, we've done it for the last election. Last election, it would have been ready today, but we're not quite finished. What we do is we send it. I think Kenya. I send it to people late. I didn't get the number of response that we like to have before we speak out when we have a community. And if anybody wants to get a survey on their ideas about what should be passed, that's going to be sent out to the Black community. Let me know and I can email you something today. But it's kind of already done, but we want looking for some more input before we take it again. So if you want to just let me know, give me your email and I'll send it.
So something interesting I heard just a couple days ago.
You might as well.
I was going to kind of change it a little bit. Okay. Something I heard a few days ago was not voting is just as bad as voting for the opposition. What do you guys think about that?
I think that we have to, that people have to people are frustrated. People are frustrated with the fact that who they voted for didn't do what they thought they were going to do. And so I think it's for us to help them understand that, just like Kenya said, like everything is political, freedom is political, equality is political, equity is political. And every time we vote, we are taking a chance on a person that we look at is going to change. Is that change going to be drastic? Sometimes not. But we have to stay the course. Just like people, I mean, we look at, you talked about overlap with money from the city and the county. Well, there's grant overlap, and it's disproportionate and it's discriminatory. But it changes as voting and as voting. And we can't win if people aren't aligned and aren't united, regardless of their differences, regardless of the fact that they may not vote for particular people the same. But when it comes to, let's say, proposition, many people didn't vote. 209 got in. Now we have an opportunity to change that, and we're going to need those people to vote. And I've been saying this over and over again. Like, there are people, if they don't know, people don't know. Many people are misinformed or don't have the information. And if they don't know, they won't vote. If they are not sure, they will not vote. If
just like someone else said, like if they know people, people will vote according to how they give them information. We have to have more of these. We have to have agenda that Black America is about politics, not just some Black Americans, but many, many more Black Americans come on board. And this is voters and other people that build relationships, have education, make sure that they're and take other resources. That's how we're doing it. We have to, right? Make that um, that if it doesn't have realistic that are not voting because they're not comfortable, they're not sure, they're not equipped, and they just like
Our campaign, we got 45,000 percent. We were only 4% behind, and it's the most conservative area, really, in California, because I'm out by the 50th congressional district. I'm in a dilemma myself because there are two people. I came in third. There are two people that are on the ballot. I really don't want to vote for either, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. People keep contacting me saying, well, you should vote for this one. Put your votes here. Put your votes there. Because our votes determine who wins. The problem is, I'm saying, who would be the best person that would represent my Black male sons? What have you done for Black people? What have you done specifically for Black males? Black men? And when people can't tell me that, that's a red flag. And so if somebody is watching, they know they're not alone, because some people, they're saying, okay, do I write in your name? Do I leave blank? Do I skip over it? People have to do what's best for them. But if they're uncomfortable in one area, really focus on 16. Focus on B. And talk to those who might have a little bit more information so they can make a critical decision based on a person or an initiative, because every vote's going to matter, you know. But I think we have to think about great point, because one of the candidates, he's participated in some criminal justice reform already. And that's something that means a lot to me, because I want to stop the pipeline to prisons. But the other, if I walk in a room, they walk right past me and walk the other way. So which one could I really have their ear, or all of us have their ear? Really important. But I always vote. I don't do anything blank, but it's a big.
I will add to this. So I consult on several. One day.
You will be soon.
Everybody says, but I'm at the table and I'm making decisions and I'm practicing policy. And what I will say is what you have heard about, oh, there's only 6% here, there's only 6% here. I don't have to worry about it. That is my. And so when I came on board, a few of the campaigns that I've been consultant have said that. And I have pushed back and like this group, this area,
they can only go up. While you're worrying about all these other community areas that are voting at 60 and 70%, you need to be worrying about the area that only voted at 10%. Because if the rest of that area comes out, you're gonna be screwed. So they can only go up, where you're gonna get that same level of engagement that you've been getting from these other communities. And so that's the way that I have started to frame the thought process around the Black community and what we need. And I will say, you know, a lot of people, as many of the panelists have already spoken, there are these different areas of government. So we have local government, which the mayor is the head of local government. You have county government, which is the county board of supervisors. You have the federal government, which Congress is part of the federal government. You have the state government. So we have all these levels of government that have jurisdiction over certain things. You got potholes, that's local government. The president is not going to be worried about that. So we are more worried about the presidential election, which does matter. But there are different jurisdictions in your local government, your county government, even your state government, education and schools, a lot of that falls on the state. So there are these different areas that these different levels are concerned about and are in charge of funding and ensuring. And so I work with a lot of community groups, you know, that are trying to get different access and different different things that they want. I think part of our issue is that we don't know how to demand things. We don't know how to come together and say, I want this to happen. And then we don't understand the major ramifications. We want things to happen immediately. Andrea and I have been working on the measure that we'll talk about later for, like Monica said, almost 10 years that this has been in the Measure B. We have been working on Measure B for almost 10 years, collectively with different people. Andrea and I have been working on it for the past 5 years, along with other community groups and people that have been coming together. It did not pass this year. We came back around. It's now on the ballot. So we have to that things are not fast moving. The government is not fast moving. And we have to keep at it, but we also have to know the process. We also have to know how to demand and how to go about getting things through the process. Part of how I got into this whole political rift is watching city council hearings and going to city council hearings to speak on the record to say, I oppose this. And if you vote, I'm in your district. I will get you out of your seat. If you vote against it, or if you vote for this, if you vote against my interest, I'll make sure you're not in that seat. And so, to Andrea's point, we have to be thinking about how to craft people into the representatives that we want them to be, because they may not be serving our interests. But if we're not voting to say that we are to be considered, they will continue not to, because they don't have a reason.
You know, this conversation is like really, I don't want it to stop. Do we really need to eat though? Like, is the food important? Well, I mean, we will. That's okay.
The grand finale.
And that was the kind of one, the importance of voting. There will be another conversation. Right.
Great job, y'all.
We're gonna come back in a few minutes.
So as you heard,
Was this your partner?
nah, that should be yours. Yeah, that's yours.
But also, everybody, before you leave, everything's free. So, everything's free. Yeah, this is my own personal investment. Just because I believe it's worth it. It's really good. So I hope you guys are enjoying this entire event, and I hope you enjoy the food.
So as you heard, we're going on a break, and we're going to break.
I just met him. He's from Cape Verde.
No, you good. You good. No further. So we're going on a break. Next panel's coming up. It's gonna be on Measure B, San Diego Police Oversight Mission Board. We got some powerful, very involved community members that are gonna be on the panel. Andrea St. Julian. We got a bunch of folks here, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Right back.
And so, we started, and I would say that the one thing that I have learned from working all of this, and the one thing that I want everybody to know is that we have all the power. And the biggest problem is we have let the man get into our heads and make us believe that we are powerless, when nothing could be further from the truth. Okay? When we first started working on this matter, we were told if people would even talk to us, because most people wouldn't even talk to things ignored us. They would say, really, the city, the powers that be, the police officers association, they're so powerful. You can't get a commission like this created. You can't get it put on the ballot, you know. And surely every single year, the police officers association would fight us. They would come up with a bunch of untruths about what it's about, what it was going to do. They would go in and talk to council members and tell them complete untruths about this, and council members the first believe, but we kept at it. And along the way, we grew a coalition of community members and organizations that saw the truth of the matter, that this is simply a community-led commission to investigate complaints against the police, and it was a good thing for everybody, including the police, you know. And over time, the elected officials saw that we supported this and we were serious about it. And let me tell you, this go round, we passed every single stage of city council with a unanimous vote. Okay? Unanimous vote. And we went through many stages, right? And it's because the community stood up and said, this is what we demand. Okay? And so that's what I want everyone to take away. When we stand up, when we work together, and when we demand nothing more than what's right, we will succeed. Okay? We are 100% grassroots. We don't have some big organizations with big money. No. We are 100% people power. 100%. And that's why it is so important for each of you to take ownership of Measure B and to say, you know what, I'm going to vote for Measure B. I'm going to take ownership of it. I'm going to tell everybody I know to vote for Measure B, because that is how we're going to do it. Okay? And let me tell you, the people power is working. I don't know if you read the poll in the San Diego Tribune on September 1st, okay, that talked about all the races. There was one race where it was clearly ahead and had really solid support. And you know what race that was? That was the race on the okay? And that was because the people said, we want community-led oversight of the police, where that commission can actually investigate what the police do. Okay? It is as simple as that. But as also is, we can't do this without you. I have got to have you go get in there and vote. I have got to get you to get in there and tell every single person you know to vote for Measure B.
So this one on that ballot.
Everybody is in the city. Everybody in the city.
And so this does not apply to the sheriff.
No, sheriff serves as a whole other issue. But this does apply to the city. But let me also say, Measure B will have impact on city counties. I have already had other cities contacting me, asking them how they do something like Measure B and how they get that. So once it starts here, it's like a domino effect, and it can get other conditions, similar conditions, throughout the county.
The city of Williamson they're heard from good stuff, like it's starting to had the county come to us and say, how do we make what we already have more like what we have in Mississippi? So it is spreading, and we know that in the past it's time to go, and you know that's why it is very important because we don't have any like and what you do is say if there is some misconduct, I have a way to report this. I have a way to report this in a way that now somebody's going to investigate it. A professional will investigate this. We have community members who will be here to look at the facts and see what is being done instead of just having rogue officers just go around doing what they want to do, knowing that there's no action that's gonna come behind it.
So I know sometimes measures and propositions go by other names. Is Measure B called anything else?
Measure
And
B.
it's just
The
Measure B.
measure-
Yes, on Measure B. So you'll see or you'll hear if you hear about it, you might hear that the charter amendment on police misconduct. It's gonna like the wording of it will be encapsulated something about police misconduct and practice, but it's so I mean there will be a description on the ballot that describes what takes place, but it's Measure B.
And where can we read about it?
You can go to SanDieganForJustice.com. There is the entire charter amendment. So what it is a charter amendment that's going to go in the Constitution for the city of San Diego.
Here's the Constitution.
There is a Constitution for the city of San Diego, which is called a city charter. And what that city charter does, it tells you what the city can do, much like the U.S. Constitution. What comes behind that city charter is more of a skeletal document. And what is made of that is city council ordinances, municipal ordinances, and other kinds of things that come out of that city charter. But nothing in the city can go against that. But of course, it's more broad, and then you have the specific laws that are created after council parking and all these things, all these different rights. And so what we did was we went to the source and we changed the source, which is the city charter, and that is amended. That if you vote that in, that is what will be amended. It's not some law that the mayor can veto or change at will. This is coming to the source of the city and where in the document that they have to abide by to create any other law for this city.
It's got to be made.
And so what we have done is we have advocated for a charter amendment. So that's important to know. It's not just a law that is going to be put in place. It is a charter amendment.
What happens after? From I don't know much. I know like once let's say it passes and then there's time period when it's be there.
Well, actually, it's. I'm going to use a legal term because I wrote the charter amendment. So when I wrote it so that it was called self-execution. So the second that it passes, the commission is created. It will be created immediately. Okay. So there will be an ordinance later on that will flush it out, but it will still be immediately. How do you get this? Oh, get on the commission?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Okay. So what I do was referring to the ordinance, right? Like I said, city council did make ordinances that are based. And so the next step is to create who, how, when, where. What does the community want this to look like? what are the requirements that we want for people who want to serve on the board? What is the ages that we want? While going through this process, we've been advocating for younger people to speak, especially particularly set aside for those who are under the age of 21, because we want the youth to be a part of this. They are impacted as much, as much as anyone else. So these are the things that, again, the community has a voice in determining what does this look like? Who's allowed to be on it? Do we want people who have been ex-law enforcement members to be a part of this? No, yes. What do we want? We want all communities represented. We want people who are on both sides of the political party. You want, it's up to you. You have the voice in determining who should be on this, what it looks like, how things will be reviewed, all of those details.
Okay. So after we get it passed, after we vote yes on that speak, then what was the term again? Self-executing. It's self-executing, and then we also decide who sits on the spot.
Well, that is in the measure B itself, it says that the city council will appoint. So once the commission comes into effect, what I hope to see, and of course that'll have to be figured out in detail once the measure passes, I would like to see the application online. And ask. We want to make it as simple as possible for.
So I understand that it's the jurisdiction of the city of San Diego, but I mean, some of us, like I live in East County, but I travel in the city of San Diego, which means that I could also be affected by San Diego police. So just to make sure that everybody understands, you don't have to live in the city of San Diego to be positively impacted by the passing of measures.
And there are people who may not live, but who have friends. And we are going to tell all of our friends, yes, on this. Again, it's just us, right? There are no, companies or corporations or anything supporting us. It is just us, okay? And we have got to get this.
Does it have a significant financial impact?
In what way?
So is this going to cost taxpayers more money to have this?
So I would say no. Of course, there is a cost to the commission, right? And that was kind of one that law enforcement they kept saying, and they kept telling everybody, all the and people were believing it. And I was like, I know that this is not going to cost money.
The city independent budget analyst costed this out and said it was going to cost
Exactly. And so, and I was so glad because somebody finally asked, cost this out. The budget analyst said the most likely cost would be $1.1 million. Okay. Now, it's not even really cost $1.1 million more because there is currently a board called the CRC that this measure B abolishes that board to create this board. And that board has a budget of $400 to $700,000. So all that money is going to go. So it's really not going to cost them at all.
We're already paying an average of $4 million a year in defending lawsuits that people are winning by suing the government because of the Congress. So we're spending 3 times as much, 4 times as much already on police conduct lawsuits every year. In 2016, we spent $11 million on lawsuits. So to say, and like Rocky said, that this is a little disclaimer of the whole process through. This is actually safe in all because you can track down on the way that we interact, on the way that law enforcement interacts with us, where we are not having possible interaction as much. We're mitigating the issues and some of the problems that we see more and more. And so, pay $1.1 million a year at best to counter an average $4 million of taxpayer money and police misconduct lawsuits is a win in my book.
And also, let's be really clear. Oftentimes, we're compared to Sanford in terms of policing. They have a police force that's half of our size, and obviously a much smaller city. They spend $1.4 million on a similar position. Okay, so half the size, and they're going to be spending more than we spend. What we are going to be spending is nothing. And also, I want to be really clear. I can talk about money all day long. It's cost effective. It's important. But the bottom line is, how much does a life cost?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, how much are we spending on 101 Ash, that building does justice? You know, and somebody's going to talk to me about $1.1 million a year when we're trying to make people safe. I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't really get into that conversation. But I will tell you, the cost is incredible if you want to talk.
So you mentioned that the CRB be abolished when
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Say it, Marisa. Take it.
Okay. CRB currently, the members are appointed by the mayor. The mayor is the chief of police's law. The San Diego Police Department law. Huge conflict of interest. Current CRB is also represented by the city attorney. The city attorney represents the police department. So the city attorney's job is to protect city government employees. So how can you protect one who is harming the other or trying to investigate the other, and then you're supposed to give legal guidance for what they're about to do? Huge conflict of interest. The CRB has no teeth, has no power to do anything. What they do is review. That's it. They don't have any role in disciplinary action. They don't have any role in any authority. And then, even in reviewing, there's all of these restrictions around how they. And then the police department, police officers often do not give them the information that they need.
The CRB does not investigate at all. They do not have the power or ability to investigate complaints at all. At all. All right? All they do is go in and read what the police department the report that the police department is. That is all the current CRB does. The new commission
is handed what is the results of an internal affairs investigation. So they get the police department's investigation and they say, here, you can read that.
That's all they do.
So the new commission, one is at all. So it's independent, has appointing power, but it's community led. It will not be represented by the city attorney. It will have its own independent legal counsel. The new commission also has subpoena power. So when law enforcement is being hesitant and reticent about providing information that's requested, the new commission can go to court and say, get a court order to demand and to force law enforcement to give over those documents. And lastly, we will have our own investigators in the new commission, where they're not getting and reviewing internal affairs biased documents. So those are the major differences. There are other differences where the commission will have the responsibility to review practices so that they can, procedures and practices, so they can look at policies over time and see what needs to be changed, biases in their policies and their procedures and how they are structuring those, and advise on how to make those better. There's a number of other nuances, but those are the big overarching differences from what's currently there versus what it can be. Chris, you got something to say?
Yeah. So what are the top officials like the mayor? What are their stances on this?
They have endorsed. The law enforcement department has gone neutral. I don't want anybody else to get in trouble for things. So I think so when we talk about what we have to go through to get this, and then on top of that, your question around like who really actually supported it. I'm gonna ask all of you all when you're making your decision on. I know you're already gonna vote for Measure B, but when you're making the decision on who to vote for, like Andrea said, you have to make sure that you're thinking ahead. Who supported this bill
When it
prior
wasn't popular.
to it, when it wasn't popular? Who supported criminal justice bills before they had to be, because there's certain bills that Dr. Weber put forth that had to be watered down, right? And they did an amazing job of keeping the meat in this particular bill, but that isn't always happening. So who supported it when it wasn't popular? Who's endorsed, and who gets money from police community? Because that is part of the reason why people are so quiet. Because if you have special interests built into your campaign, you're never going to speak up for what's right and what's actually for the community. Right now, because it's popular and because they did such an amazing job to bring people around to the table, now people are saying, oh, I supported this and you didn't support it from the beginning. So I'm asking everybody, do your homework. Who's endorsed by the police union? Who got money from the police union? And if they are elected.
You were trying to jump back, so say the name.
Oh, okay, I can say the name. Okay. Todd Gloria got money from the police association. He is endorsed by the police association. But when we're thinking further ahead, when we talked about not just having access, but understanding who can we go into spaces in a room and have a conversation with, and actually move the needle, and then actually look at the research and look at, not even forget the research and the data, look at the pain of the community and say, you know what, I haven't had to experience this, but I see what the people that I call my allies are dealing with, and I'm going to do something from the beginning, right? And so there's two types of people running for office right now. There's those who are career politicians that look shiny on the outside and talk a good game,
But in every room, switch up to whatever they have to switch up to make themselves look a certain type of way. And then there's those that we may not agree with on every end. But if you call them to have a conversation with them, they're going to be there. And most of the time, you can move the needle. Why? Because they're not bought and they're not bossed by special interests. They don't have the endorsement of, and they don't have their money, so they don't have to do any favors for anybody. So a lot of times they're making decisions based on what is fair and what is equitable. And if they are ignorant to a situation, they're still willing to have a conversation with any of us because they're not owned by anybody. And who are those people? I already said the person who's bought.
Well, I'm gonna jump on that hand grenade.
Okay.
Go ahead. So one of the candidates, which is opposing who Nika pointed out, she's running for mayor, Barbara Bree. I am on her campaign. I am one of her consultants, as I mentioned. I consult on several different campaigns. Not only did she support this from the beginning, before it was popular, I'll go back to what Mika said about Dr. Weber's use of force bill, AB 392. She supported that from the beginning when it was popular, when she was getting all of the hate mail and the death threats and all of that for supporting the use of force bill, which now we have as the strongest use of force bill in the country. So as Mika pointed out, you do have to pay attention to what people are doing, to what people are saying, because people will be very polished and say the right things in front of the right crowds. And then you have my candidate, Barbara Bree, who is as awkward as ever. Old, I'm just going to put it out there and keep it real. Old 70-year-old white lady. Jewish white lady. Real awkward. Yeah. And you would think, what? Like, you're not going to do anything to support me, but at the heart of it, she's like, I'm here to listen. What do you need from me? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to say, just to piggyback on that, because I have no political power, I'm not elected. And from day one, she started talking to me about if we're both elected, what she can do in terms of the city partnering to help support some of the needs of the district. And when we've been in spaces where there was an issue that came up that she thought I could speak to, she would point me out to people who didn't know I was going to.
Yeah. And can I just go further? We have, like, as a community, right? We have to stop taking crumbs from people and then allowing that to be divisive and divide us in our community. So you have people that support people for no other reason, not that they've done anything good for you, other than gave you a crumb when they got more than enough, right? And you took that crumb, and now they have your support, and you're going in the worst interest of your own community because you're trying to keep a crumb. And it is really sad that if we were to operate as a collective, we would not be fighting over a crumb. But and let's look at how this has to do with slavery and history, right? And how we had to fight for our positions because there wasn't room for the both of us. So one of us is gonna have to fight over it. And that mentality still is here to this day. And that's not, by accident, that's definitely by design. You got black folks over here that are moving this way, you got black people over there, and that's why I just say it's so important. I never take money from folks. I never take certain things from folks because when I speak and I tell you guys somebody's for our community, I mean that with all my heart, not because they gave me anything, but because I've seen the work behind closed doors, right? And so that is the type of leadership like we need in our community, especially, let's say I'm not even gonna say let's say, we will get Measure B, right? There are so many things that I already know, and I cannot say names, and I wish I could, that if certain people get elected, that they're already talking about the deficit that San Diego is in and the important things that we need or we're trying to get past that they're going to cut. But they're talking a certain type of way now, right? And so we have to be, because we might get Measure B passed, and we are going to get Measure B passed, but once we do get it passed, we need to make sure that there's not backdoor deals happening and certain things happening and fake wars being created to counter what we're doing and what we have. We have to make sure that when we're talking about moving forward and moving ahead, that we have visionaries and people that are on the right side of justice when it comes to these issues. And I just think that's super, super important.
So, earlier in panel one, it was mentioned that perhaps some people don't vote because they didn't have something to vote for. And if you didn't have anything to vote for, this is definitely something to vote for. To get into the get your ballots in, whether you mail it, you walk it in, or you send somebody else. Yes, Dr. Luana.
There's also Prop 15, Prop 16, and Prop 17, Prop 20, Prop 19. The propositions this year are epic. There are things that can really change if we actually show up and vote. And then there's some things that can change the way we don't want them to if we don't show up and vote.
And the more we keep having these types of conversations, we can continue to build on our civic engagement, because some people may think that civic engagement ends in the polls.
Yep.
And it does not. Like Mika said, after this is done, we got to make sure that that things are, that there aren't any backdoor bills that'll come around and create loopholes and whatever the curse word.
And what I would ask everybody to do, and I sincerely am asking this, please go to sandiegonsforjustice.com and sign up. So you'll get that information, and we can be connected, and we can work collectively. Because that's where real power comes from, when we work collectively. So it's sandiegonsforjustice.com. Just go ahead and sign up, and you'll get information from us. The other thing I want to say, and I don't know if it was Kenya or somebody else, we talked about ballot parties. Those are great ideas for people who are like, I'm not really sure who to vote for or what to vote for. And I'd like to get together with other people so we can kind of talk about it. I think ballot parties are great. You could, if you want to, contact sandiegonsforjustice.com. Go to moralgovernance.org, which is a nonprofit that I co-founded with Genevieve Jones-Wright. I think a few of you may know her. And we can help you set up a ballot party.
And a phone banking party too.
Oh, and phone banking. Oh, come in. Oh, definitely volunteer with us. Definitely, if you really want to get into it, yes, come and phone bank with us too.
So language on Measure B is on sandiegonsforjustice.com. Is it in legal jargon, or is it something that the average don't know nothing about law?
So, it's going to be, that is a sensitive question for me, since I wrote it, right? So I tried to write it as simply as possible. So it does. Now it has to have a few legal phrases here and there, but I think that it is something that people can read, and I think it's mainly pretty understandable.
The short answer is yes. It's in legal jargon, but there's also the broke down like ABCD 1 2 3 version as well. So if you go to the actual, if you look, both is posted online. If you go to our website, you will see the common sense, common language breakdown of it. If you click to read the actual amendment, it will have the legal jargon version, which will be the charter amendment, the actual written charter amendment.
How long is it?
It's long for a charter amendment. It's about 6 or 7 pages.
I thought it was closer to like 3 or 4.
No,
We
it's a little
chopped
longer.
it a lot.
Yeah, we chopped it, but I still think it's around 6 or 7 pages. And of course, I encourage everybody to read it. But I mean, what it does is actually really, really simple. It creates a commission led by the community members who can investigate police complaints. That's all it is. I mean, that's how simple it is.
In the Constitution.
In the city's charter, yes.
And replaces CRB.
That
does nothing.
That does not work.
You got it.
I am the Measure B expert. Is there anything else that you guys want to add or expound on?
I just want to thank the community though too. Really, I am not joking. This was everybody in the community.
It was. I mean, people. Let me tell y'all, when we was having them city council hearings, people were showing up, packed, overflow. We were there for like 3, 4, 5 hours hearing public comment and testimony. And you know what? They were surprised because they wasn't expecting us to turn out the city council hearings like we did. And that is what needs to happen on a consistent basis, not around elections, all through the year. All through the year, because they are slipping stuff in, leaking stuff in, doing all kinds of stuff all over the place. Just Friday, Thursday or Friday, the County Board of Supervisors, which is what Kenya was running for, County Board of Supervisors passed a resolution to support Proposition 20, a state proposition which overturns Propositions 47 and 57. Propositions 47 and 57 were passed a couple of years ago, which lessened the penalties for theft and other like nonviolent crimes, and created like programs, rehabilitation programs. And if you went through the program and you successfully finished the program, you got lesser sentences and penalties. They're trying to overturn that. And Friday, on a whim, out of nowhere, nobody knew about it. We found out 8 a.m. in the morning on the day they were going to take the vote. Sneaky stuff. They voted to overturn Proposition 47 and 57. So what does that do? It seems like not a big deal because it's state legislation. Well, it is a big deal because the more state assembly members who see, oh, this county supports it, this county supports it, this county supports it, this county supports it, this is good for the state. That's how this works. So a resolution, you may think, oh, a resolution, that doesn't really do anything. Yes, it does. It sends a signal. And if it was enough for them to vote on it, they know what signal it sends.
Right.
So these are the things that we have to be in tune on. And you are only in tune if you're in it year round, because then you get the phone calls when things are happening. All 10 o'clock at night, you get the text message. Did you know city council voting on this at 8 a.m. in the morning? No, I didn't know. Make sure you show up. Okay, we dropping everything. We showing up. That's how the interconnection circles work. Once you're in it, you're in it. And I say this all the time. Me, Andrea really was the one who started saying it. We're all in this, what she calls an incestuous relationship, because we're all in the same. Dr. Richmond, Kenya, Mika, myself, we're all in the same organizations, all doing this work in all these circles that we just keep like bumping into each other. Oh yeah, you accepted. Okay, yeah, you doing it. We all doing it. We all doing it.
And we need everybody with us.
Yeah.
We need everybody to come in with us.
Every little program, every little organization, every little this, every little that. We all there. So we know when things are happening who we can count on to show up, because that we know the people that's gonna drop everything in the moment. Now, some people can't always drop everything, who got jobs and stuff like that. But for the most part, we know who's gonna drop what they're doing, make it a priority to be like, I'm bringing everybody out. Something goes down out of school, Mika's like, oh, we going to shut this place down. I'm bringing everybody out. Like, it's that simple. She will be out in them streets.
And there's some things
shutting the highways down.
There are things that are even simpler though, like just calling a council member or a county board of supervisor and telling them do this or don't do that.
Yep.
Or just even emailing them. Listen, that is so powerful. So powerful. I remember one time we were doing something for Measure B before it actually became Measure B. And somebody said, yeah, if 100 people call, that's considered a lot. It's like, really? 100 people can sway a council member's mind. That's how few. I mean, it's not a block, isn't it? Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If we decide to do something, we can move the needle. We just have to realize that we've got the power to do that.
Yeah, because we need help. We don't want to be showing up to everything.
And the electronic comments.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's right.
There's also, so every city council hearing is streamed live. So if you can't make it there physically, you can watch it online, and you can make public comments electronically online. So you can say, I support item, agenda, whatever, whatever. I support this. I expect you to support it. City council member, I live here. I'm in your district. I support it. I want you to support it. It's easy. It's as easy as that. It don't have to be no long, drawn out thing. I support Measure B. I support Agenda 33. That's it.
And you can do it in your own time.
Yeah, yeah. And some, yeah, you can even see comments ahead of time. So it's
Yeah.
not even that. So yeah. And again, if people are wondering, okay, so what should I be aware of? That's why you sign up for SanDiegoForJustice.com. You know, we'll let you know what to look out for, what to be aware of, where you can go to read more about it and make a decision for yourself on what you feel.
Does it matter? Like, do they want to know where you live when you call? Because, like, can I call? I live in East County.
You can call. You don't have to say where you're from.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Pressure, pressure, pressure.
Do y'all have anything? Any questions? Y'all also experts on Measure B?
Yeah.
Yeah, feeling better?
Yeah, the floor is open for anyone in the audience to either give some input or ask a question to any one of the panelists.
Mine is on like
We
You
here
can
for
stand up. You can stand up.
My name is Ahmad. I'm a resident. I live near Morse High School on Skyline Drive. Born and raised there. I work for Prop 16. I go to UC Berkeley. I'm a third-year student there. And I really, like, from the bottom of my heart, asking everyone here today to please vote yes on Prop 16. And not just vote yes, but tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family, because like Measure B, the repeal of Prop 209 has been something that's been on the ballot before many times, and it's failed. So many different racial groups, Latinx, Black, etc., have tried to repeal Prop 209, and it has failed. And today, the opposition, especially right here in San Diego County, is beating us. Only 1/3 of voters in San Diego County support Prop 16. That is bad, like really bad. And folks are really putting a lot of myths out there that Prop 16 is going to legalize discrimination. No. Prop 16 basically will reinstate affirmative action in higher education, in public contracts, and employment. What does that mean to the average person? Today at UC Berkeley, there is about 45,000 students combined graduate and undergraduate programs. There are only 812 Black students, meaning we're about 1.8%, right? UC Berkeley is the #1 public institution in the world that prides itself on diversity. It just happens to be located 10 minutes from Oakland, known as the center and the city for Black resistance, right? There's no reason why UC Berkeley doesn't represent the community it surrounds, correct?
Yes.
Today, UCSD has 1.2% Black population. That makes no sense at all. Today, we can change the ways in which the state looks like, whether it be when you walk into a Walmart, whether it be when you walk into City Hall. There are council members who don't have any Black staff, right? And their reasoning for it's not enough to just have us to vote for Measure B and vote for all these propositions, but we also should vote for Prop 16 so that we can have them on file saying, I'm not hiring Black women or etc. because I don't want to. Right now, they're using Prop 209 as a reason for not being more diverse in their staff. We got to have them in a position where you can't say Prop 209 no more. What's your reason for not having a Black staff member? What's your reason for your corporate board not being more Black? What's your reason for your campus not being more Black? 92% of public contracts today from the state government go to companies owned by white men.
Right.
We know here in San Diego there are a lot of Black and brown contractors who work in different fields. There's no reason why they don't get the same shot.
That's right.
We know that our youth today in San Diego County and across the state in K-12 are performing at the worst levels. And you know what? Dr. Weber cannot allocate dollars to their program specifically for Black youth or for Latinx youth because of Prop 209. There's so many legal restraints, correct? What can we do as a community? We cannot let it fail again. We cannot. It's time to vote yes in big numbers to share with our friends and family so that our state institutions that are public look like us, right? Because we're gonna feel more comfortable talking to one of us than one of them, right? Please vote yes on Prop 16. I work for them. If you want a text bank, if you want a phone bank, if you want a sign for your house, whatever it is, like email us, my contact information. We really need this to pass. Dr. Weber worked on it so hard. After having that fight with AB 392, she did two amazing things back to back. Some lawmakers don't even get to do that in their entire term, correct? And it was myself and 3 other black students at UC Berkeley who were the lead organizers for this. 2 black women and 2 black men. So please vote for it. We really need this to pass. If you don't vote for any other thing on this ballot other than Measure B, and just vote for Measure B, Measure C. I don't care about anything else. Don't vote for Trump, don't vote for Biden. I don't care what you do with the other ballots. Vote for 16, vote for Measure B. That's all that matters to me.
Don't leave nothing blank.
Thank you so much.
Can I add something?
Can I have one more?
I just have a question about Prop 16. Is it on everybody's ballot?
Everybody's ballot
Okay,
in
that's what
California. Everybody. No
Okay.
Democrat, Republican, nothing. You are a Californian, vote yes.
I just want to add to what he was talking about. He said UC Berkeley prides themselves on diversity. And that is a buzzword right now that everybody wants to use. But what diversity means is everybody except the white male.
Yes.
So yes, I have women on my staff. Yes, I might have LGBTQ plus community. I might have an Asian person, API. I might have a Latinx. That does not mean black. So he made a great point that the fact that UC Berkeley can pride themselves on diversity with 1.8% of black students is a problem. And so we need to make sure that we're paying attention to these little buzzwords that people want to use and understand what the code is behind what they're saying.
And how we do that is just by becoming way more politically engaged. I've been doing this for the past 5 years. I'm real hesitant on speaking on anything if I don't really understand what I'm talking about. So it took me some reading and some listening to these people that are actually been here in the trenches for years to really get a grasp on what's happening. But to piggyback off what he was talking about Prop 16 and the necessity of contracting, in fiscal year 2019, this is how many contracts were given to African Americans. Four. $38,000.
Oh my God.
$38,000.
How much?
4. Now let's go. This is where it comes to. Here we go. African American 4, $34,000. Asian Pacific 45, $7,300,000. Caucasian 363, $77,700,000. Latino 50, $5,300,000. Native American 1, $280,000.
One Native American got $280,000.
And we
who got 38,000.
38,000.
All these other people got millions upon millions upon millions upon millions.
Yes.
So we weren't even getting 10,000 apiece.
No, and that's
Crumbs.
crumb.
That's not even a crumb.
That's that crumb.
That's the crumb of the crumb.
Right.
That everybody.
Yes, on Prop 16.
Don't let it fail, please. Like,
Yes, on Prop
I
16.
wish I would have seen the article that was just posted yesterday. The opposition is beating us, so they're having car caravans. The Chinese community is out there. These East Asians, they don't want us to live.
Yes, exactly.
There's no Pilsen solidarity. That shit is a myth. That shit is a myth. Like, it don't exist.
Say it again. Say it
Black
again.
people, all we have is each other. That's it.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, we need to show the people who are making these surveys, you know what, we might not participate in these surveys, but come November, you were wrong, and we voted in big numbers. Because Dr. Weber did not work her ass off. She did not do all that fighting on that floor just for her own district not to vote in big numbers. If anything, we should be the biggest supporters of this proposition because she did that for us right here in San Diego, right here in Southeast San Diego. So,
Mickey, what you gotta say? You was talking about, oh my God.
Oh, don't ignore me.
No, we don't ignore you.
No, it was just something he said.
Now, one more thing, like based on that, you gotta think. Me personally, I'm doing this because I want to start a family, and by wanting to start a family and I've done a lot of things right in my life, and I've done them in order. And if my child is doing okay, let's just say it happens to be doing all right because his mother and father's doing all right. But it really doesn't matter if the community and the selection of dates and I guess marrying, he or she doesn't have no one because our communities are underfunded. We don't have decent salaries. And this is something that can be done with the city, with the state, based on that we contribute our taxes. So we should actually have a fair share in the contracts. It's just really that simple. So I do this because I worry about the future. I worry about the future. I worry about us being not engaged. I worry about us being so apathetic, not caring, and everyone else is just taking over. We're gonna not that we would be extinct, but yeah, we're gonna be a non-factor if we really don't get some fire lit underneath us. And it doesn't matter if we don't know what we're doing, if we feel uncomfortable doing it. We just need to do it. We need to do something because it's gonna look not that great in 20 years.
Ain't right
And
now.
Michael,
Yeah.
Michael, I want to follow up with something you said. You were talking about, well, it took you a while to get involved because you really weren't sure about what this was all about. Let's be really clear. White people voice their opinions and move forward, and they don't know. They don't know either.
Those
But
are
they don't know what they're talking about. But they don't let that stop them.
Oh my
You
God.
know,
Damn
they
true.
do not let that stop them, and we can't. We always put ourselves up at a higher. We raise the barriers to entry so much higher for ourselves than other people do. They don't know, and we can't. You don't know about the political process until you start to get involved.
Right.
You don't know about the issues until you start looking into them and talking to people about them.
Mhm.
Don't expect to know about this stuff before you start taking steps. Just do it. You know? Do you think I know anything about it? No.
That's what Michelle Obama said. She said, and I learned this a long time ago. She got in all those rooms with all those Ivy League, degrees and everything like that, and realized that these people were not that intelligent. And that is really, and I love everybody. Everybody knows that about me. But that is really true. They are very much faking it until they make it. And really, we do hold ourselves at a higher standard because as Black people, we always got to be bigger, better, badder, faster to really get something that we worked hard for. We have to go over and beyond, right? But in this political case, I mean, it really has to be, if you don't know it all, just get involved and you will learn. This is something that you will learn in the process. I hated politics. I still hate politics. But I realized, like Kenya said, politics is in everything that we do. And really, and that's why I talk about getting rid of these labels, because half the time when I sit down with folks, we agree on certain things, but because you sit on the red side and you sit on the blue side, we can't agree and come to the table and meet in the middle what works for both of us. You know, North County constantly tells Mika, when we call the police, it takes them over 30 minutes to show up. And I said, oh, well, you can have ours. Like, I'll gladly give you all
We got an
the
abundance.
yeah, we have more, but the reality of it is they don't want to defund the police. They want more policing, right? And I believe whatever in that community, if that's what you want, let's give them that. But those are not conversations that we're willing to have because no one's willing to come to the table and have these like really hard conversations, uncomfortable conversations around things. But you'll learn in the process. I had to jump and get involved because I needed to see change. And now, me and her at the same table because we pretty much advise most of the people on the right side running, we pretty much advise all of this.
On the correct side.
Huh?
On the correct side.
On the correct side.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the correct
Not the right side.
I was confused. Thank you.
Not the Republican right side now.
So I just want to say in the last year, I've learned more about the process than I thought there was to learn. I could write a book just on what I've learned in 1 year. And we have to engage because the other thing we do is we look to the people that we elect and they make decisions and they do things that don't make sense. and we consider them acts of betrayal because we don't have context and we don't understand everything that's happening in that conversation. And I'll point to the way we all, well, not we all, because I didn't, but a lot of people were turned on their favorite council member when the budget vote went, not understanding that there were greater things at play, and that it was a math problem. And we need to be more knowledgeable, and we also need to be there and show up beyond just the election day.
I just wanted to say, you know, having family who was, they're from the South, came out to California. The goal was years ago not to draw too much attention to the family, right? Now, I've always been the renegade or whatever you want to call it, because if you talk about fighting for justice and we don't have justice, then something's wrong. And so this is a time for us to ask questions. Those politicians that are out there, they listen more than what we know. They are actually fearful. Fearful. I've said to their face, if San Diego is so blue, if California is so blue, and you may have been in the meeting when I said it to the elected officials, how come we have so many black people in jail?
Right.
Now, they still endorse me, but then they didn't do anything for me, right? So people, they tell us what we want to hear, but it's time for us to embrace our power, and we need to vote.
And they never answered my question.
Of course not.
You know what my question was?
There's been several.
The one about this is a vital race.
Yes.
So for some reason,
yeah.
one supervisory race is a critical race, but another supervisory race, well.
Okay. So even though they endorsed me, the Democratic Party endorsed me, they didn't do anything for me. They thought it was a long shot, but I got 45,000 votes and only 4% behind. But I'm mentioning this because it's important to call our elected officials. It's important to talk to our neighbors. People are going to vote more so in numbers now than ever. Some people don't want to publicly talk about elections, though. And that's because there's a number of people that are Generation X and younger who are afraid sometimes that if they speak out openly, they fear losing their job, or they fear getting a promotion. And so for some people, if you fall under that category, it's okay not to put anything on social media.
Yeah.
But picking up the phone, texting 20 people saying, hey, can you vote for Measure B? I need you to vote for Prop 16. Sometimes that's the route to go versus putting something on social media. Because employers, if you're trying to apply for a job, they're doing Department of Justice, FBI background checks on me. You know, they're running your credit too. But everything we put in social media, sometimes we need to look at life like a game of football and not put your whole playbook on social media. But just contact people and say, hey, I need you to reach out to 20 people, 50 people, and vote for Prop 16, vote for Measure B. And people are voting, and some people are going to be like, oh, nobody cares. Forget the haters. Just deal with the people who believe in what you're doing. And the thing I learned about on the campaign trail that was the most important to me, no means next. As soon as somebody tells you no, go to the next person, because that might be your yes. And you'll find a whole lot of them, because people want hope. People are tired of talking about the same thing. And in order for us to have a better living situation, we have to pass these propositions or measures, or else we're going to be talking about the same thing for 402 years. And it's too long for me.
Real quick, I will go back to something I said earlier, but I advise on policy. I write policy. There have been times where I have said to a person in office or a person running, that's not going to work for my community. Hold on, I'll go get you the answer. I go back to my community and say, what do y'all want?
I
don't know.
I was going to say, what do we say? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Don't get, that's another conversation.
I don't know. I don't have a clue. So you don't like stuff, but we don't know what we want.
That's where my Afrofuturism comes.
That's what people think for you.
Like, we cannot keep not having anything to say. If we're upset, if you upset, you need to have a solution.
Yeah.
What is the solution? So that when you are asked, so that when you do demand, you have an answer. You have something to say. I don't like what's going on. This is what it needs to be. Not, I don't like what's going on. You fix it. How is the non-person, a person that's not a part of your community, supposed to know what is good for your community? They're not a part of it. So you cannot expect them to know what's best for you. And that's what we do. We're like, well, they didn't do this. Well, how are they supposed to know?
Yeah.
They don't. We have to tell them. And we often don't have the answer.
But again, sign up for SanDiegoForJustice.com, sign up for moralgovernance.org, and you will be able to get issues and help you become informed so that you do have an answer. You know, but I also want to touch on something that Kevin said before, and the power of social media. Remember when I was telling you that even just 100 telephone calls and texts can really move the needle with an elected official? I had two people who were in their 20s who got excited about Measure B. You know, listen, I don't know anything about social media, right? I get in on there maybe once a week. But I told them, these two young, I just happened to mention that, you know, we needed people to say something to these, you know, at this meeting. They got 4,000 people to call and sign up for that meeting. 4,000! When only 100 can move the needle. And it was just two people who did that, and they did it just through texting and through the social media of all their friends. That is how powerful each of you can be. You say you text your friends and say, or put out in your social media and ask everybody you know to contact everybody they know, and just push this button to email an elected. You can make a huge difference. It is that simple. It is truly that simple.
Is there a way that we could have a united front where we have Measure B, Prop 16 on one document and everybody shares it?
That is possible.
Let's create that.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if we're giving the same message and we see it's coming from trusted community partners, people will be like, oh yeah, I remember something about that. If other people start sharing.
Okay, because I know I shared.
I mean, I just see all the things that are going on. It's tough to indict the whole black community because, I mean, I think black people nationally vote more in ratio than every other group. So, it's, I don't know. I just kind of get triggered when it's like, it's like when I bring up the whole issue of like the miseducation and kind of like some of us are trying to live, or trying to eat, trying to take care of our kids in the middle of a pandemic. That it's like now I gotta research everything. So I don't know. I just kind of get weird with that.
Yeah, I wasn't referring to the black community only. I wanted to go to everybody because everybody's going to be voting on these things.
And out here in San Diego, we really do depend a lot on our allies. I'm just
Oh
be
yeah.
real.
Yeah, we are not Atlanta.
Yeah, we have to.
And I like to add, like, if you think about it, after slavery, like, we were still depending on white allies to get a lot of things pushed through. You know, but you still have to move forward. You know, it's not just because usually, like what's happening right now, people see a trend. They see people like positivity. They love change. No one wants to see a person getting kicked while they're down. It's just not. It's not in human nature. So they have to create these, you know, smear campaigns to make people think there's something against their best interest. Where, well, really, this is in the best interest for us as a country. If everyone has justice and everyone has an equal stake in everything. So, yeah, I just think that's very important always to keep in mind that we have to make sure we reach out to everyone, but we just have to have the language so they can be receptive to our message and let them know how it would assist them as well as help us.
No, I think we have to kind of look at the anti-blackness because, like I said, everybody doesn't want justice. This country has been good on no justice. So I don't know. We have to kind of keep that in mind. And like, we don't have allies. People label stuff that's kind of black issues, and they just go the other way. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think everybody wants justice. I don't think everybody wants what's right for black people. I think a lot of people are either indifferent or want the worst.
I just want to say this one thing. Dr. Weber and I, we work on a few projects together. One of the things she taught me in probably the late or early 2000s was code switching. I might say, hey, what's up to you? But one of my allies, I might say, how are you doing? Now, some people say they are the same way everywhere they go. But sometimes you got to tweak what you say just a little bit to get people on board. Because if I go to a person saying, this is what your ancestors did to me and I need you to vote on this, it's not going to work. I'm a therapist. I'm a mental health provider for a living. And it's about building and sustaining relationships. And we have more allies. The votes that Tasha got, I got, the support you have, a lot of it was from people that don't look like us. And they were fighting hard for us. And because of all the stuff going on now in our country, people are on board. People are on board like never before. And we need to ask for more than what we want so they give us less. Unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times. But we have to stop being scared to ask for what we're worth. We came from kings and queens, and we need people to treat us appropriately. And I just encourage everybody, whether it's texting, social media, people in your church, whatever you do as a hobby, talk to people about it because it's time for us to win. And personally, I'm tired of losing.
Amen.
I mean, I feel like, to be honest, like, my personal opinion is like, that's the least they can do. The least they can do is show up for us and we show up for them. To be honest, like, if you're a non-black person of color in this country today, even if you're a black immigrant, all of the rights and privileges you afforded today were built on the backs of African Americans. So it's like,
I can't hear you. We got to project
so
it.
I don't applaud. Like, I'm grateful for every campaign that you all ran, and I have every single one of you on Facebook. Even though I don't have you on Facebook, I see the posts, right? I see how white women are coming out and supporting every single Tasha, you, Aramik, everyone, right? But that's how it should be. Like, we shouldn't like. The same way we shouldn't be like getting crumbs and like being like happy with crumbs. We shouldn't be happy with them like giving us like 10% support. All white people should be supporting us at that level. All Latinx people, all everything, because everything you have today was because look around. If you're not Native American, because they're African Americans, it's like it's the least they can do. But I don't want to talk about that. What I wanted to ask you all about was Prop 25. So a lot of people are kind of like wary about Prop 25 because it takes away cash bail and changes the system to judges having risk assessment to determine who's going to be able to be free and who can't be free. And as a young black man, like obviously we want to end cash bail. I have a lot of brothers and cousins and uncles who are incarcerated, and I would love cash bail to be gone. Right, we lose a lot of money every year to cash bail, but at the same time, with Denzel's case today and seeing how the DA and the police and the judges are acting, I don't personally feel comfortable supporting Prop 25, knowing that many of these judges who are appointed by Governor Brown, who might be Democrat but still a little bit conservative, right? And Schwarzenegger, who was a Republican, these judges are under them and they're very conservative. How do we maintain a policy that basically ends cash bail but doesn't leave the power in one person, usually white old men's hands, for our safety and our future?
No, I was just thinking, like, I thought about that. I get my full point, but it kind of, unless you kind of address the anti-blackness that's inherent, that's why I was kind of befuddled by some of the rhetoric that was happening during George Floyd, because the whole issue is about racism and anti-blackness. It's not about defunding the police, because there's a lot of people that live in, that coexist with the police, and they're fine. So, but as we take it away from the racial aspect and make it more like this generalized police thing, we don't take into account that there's that, whatever you want to call it, implicit bias, bias that we have is still going to be there. So you're going to get a situation where they can't bail out at all, right, and it's up to some whim of about a judge that doesn't look like them, exactly, that doesn't understand. And a lot of these judges are conservative. They got money. They be all the Democrats. Yeah. No, I mean conservative in terms of their views, not conservative.
I think I want the lawyers to say something on this, but I just want to say that's a hard one, just personally for me. Y'all know how many times I've been to jail, and I was looking at like 7 years at one point, and it was, if I didn't have the judge that I had that was a civil rights activist that happens to be in Chula Vista, I don't know how I ended up with her. and the DA knew that and like backed out, my case would have looked a lot different, right? But I always say we have to build equity into every part of every system, because even when we have corrupt people and individuals, if we have a system that they have to go by, that changes the game. With our criminal justice system, it's it's a thin line, and so that's why I think like that's a great question, because I've been wrecking my brain about what is that middle piece that we're missing. We need to get rid of cash bail, but sometimes we'll get a really good judge, and sometimes we'll get a corrupt, evil, racist, or biased.
Because if
Yes.
if we had it
Yes.
half the time, we have less numbers.
We would. So
This is my take on that. Now, there's a lot of things that we cannot get an all or nothing. And we should not expect an all or nothing. And sometimes we have to incrementally move that forward. I think in this case with the cash bail, we are already in the position that we are in, and we know how that is faring out. I think you have to look at the pros and the cons, which is the likelihood of getting a judge that is not that person, whoever is there, is not going to fare well with, right? We have the likelihood of getting a judge that is going to be anti-black or is going to have those biases against a black person. And how does that weigh against having a cash bail? So it might be we don't support that now. But what we do is we go back to the drawing board to say, 2022, I need what's going to be on here. Let's start the process now for 2022 to end the cash bail, but have a better solution than what was offered this time. Because it doesn't have to be, oh, well, I don't know what's to come next, so I have to support this. No, you don't have to support it, because the likelihood of that passing is far worse than what is already currently in place, which is the cash bail system that we've been living under for so long. So sometimes it's a weighing factor of what is going to, is what is currently in place, is the status quo better, worse, or what are the consequences if this were to be in place? And if we can't figure that, if we can figure that out, and we know that the likelihood of what's to pass is far worse, then I say let's work together to make sure that when this comes around again, when we have the opportunity, we have a solution that does work in our favor.
But that's the problem. It's like, if laws work fine, we'd be good, but they don't work, and they use the trickery and the language and the bias and the influence and that. So you almost can't know. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like there's so many ways to circumvent stuff and to know somebody, and it's like we don't know because we have this particular experience in this country of that it looks good on paper, but when it hits us, we ain't got. We're
But
just,
that doesn't look good on paper.
No. I'm just talking about in general, like some of the other things. And,
no, I know.
And it didn't look good on. It may look good to you on paper, but he's questioning, so he doesn't have the same opinion as you.
No, I'm saying I agree with him. I'm saying,
I thought you were questioning out.
No, I'm saying that what he is saying, that does not look good on paper for us. Right. So what we have to do is say, I don't support that because it does not look good for us. And I'm saying for the cash bail in particular, that is a far worse scenario to be in, where it's up to one judge to determine if that's going to happen or not. That's worse than what we have now. So I'm not going to support that. But we can't stop at I'm not going to support that. We have to then say 2022 is another election. Starting in January, starting now, I need to start preparing and getting my coalition together to come together to see what does this proposition need to look like? How do we end cash bail and have the right solution in place where we're not having that missing piece that's going to be worse for us than what we have now?
Okay.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say, thank you both for sharing that, and I agree. There are a number of judge candidates on the ballot for November. And so this last year for the election cycle, I've seen more visibility of the candidates. I had never seen that in the past. I know that doesn't directly answer your question. However, I'm so happy to see more people who are at least engaged regarding the topics of Black people. Now, they sure might do something else after elected if they are, but at least one thing that I will be doing if I haven't reached out to all the candidates already who are running for judge, because in the past I didn't know them all. You read a bio in a book, people lie in those books all the time. And so you just pay your money for a statement and they put whatever they want and who's endorsing them. And that's the thing that I really look at for people now. Who endorses them? Where's their funding coming from, like we talked about earlier? And also who's, well, more than who's funding their campaign, there's something called PACs that fund, they raise money and they end up doing things on behalf of a candidate. So the candidate's hands are clean, but they do all kind of corrupt stuff. So a lot of the commercials you see that are negative and slander and libel you see out there, it's those PACs doing that. So you'll see at the bottom, created by whatever the name is. It's important for us to find out who those people are and talk to them, because I guarantee a lot of those people, they all run in the same circles and they use multiple names to get what they want.
Right.
Yeah, I know how easy it is to set up a committee and name it whatever you want to name it. All of those things that, you know, the process has been mystified and we need to demystify it, because today we can say we're citizens who support gentrification and create a fund and use that money however we want.
Exactly.
And there's no accountability.
Right. Exactly.
Well, it's about that time. I just want to really thank each and every one of you all for coming out and supporting this event. I want to thank each and every one of the panelists. That was amazing. I learned so much. You guys just stay tuned in the future. We're gonna have more events, because it's the third. We gotta get as many people voting for yes on Prop 16 and yes on Measure B. Right? If you don't do anything else, because your community depends on it. So, like I said, we're gonna wrap it up, but also I would like to thank Mr. Tyrone and the community spot for actually allowing us to have this space.
Yeah.
In order to
Tyrone
have a political interaction. It wouldn't be possible without these guys, and I thank them. They've been so helpful. So if you ever need something like this or this space or anything, these guys are great, and they're very affordable. And it goes right back into the black hand. The black dollar goes back into somebody's, black hand, black family.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Tyrone Brown. I'm with the community spot and community. I mean, thanks for not forgetting us. It seems a lot of people when they come up, they get up, they forget about the community. But this was the place that had like all these businesses down here were black businesses. 30 years ago, I mean, this whole area was black. This was a black insurance company, one of the first black insurance companies in the nation. Went out of business. So the church bought the location. Myself and Mr. Thomas, the real estate broker, we went to the church and said we want to talk to the community. So that's why we're here. But a lot of times, like the young man was saying, for example, Oakland, we hear Oakland, you think black. We hear Atlanta, you think black. But San Diego, we said a black community, but where's the black community? Because everybody that makes it, they don't come back anymore. And so I thank God for you guys coming by. I feel my future's brighter because of you guys, what you've done, what you're doing. So thank you again for coming out. I'm just so proud of you guys. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
And if you need insurance, hey, I just got my life insurance policy. So that's the guy to go to. And also take some food. The food, everything. I mean, I don't care. Y'all can run off with all of it. Less for me to take home.
Yo, send me a plate, yo.
Yeah. You got to go
get a plate, bro.
It wouldn't be black. A black man didn't have to go plate. You got to go plate. Man, thanks. Thank you guys for participating. Just stay in tune. No. That's perfect. No, that's what we need. We need way more of this. And can we get a photo op?
You know what I'm saying?
Can we get a photo op? Okay. And also, anyone that wants a t-shirt.
Okay, yeah.
The t-shirts for all.
Oh, nice.
I don't work for her. her. I'm in her Be Wild program for Black Women's Institute of Leadership Development. I'm the membership chair here. Oh, okay.
What's up, bro?
You know the Shaws that live in Okay. Yeah, so Edna is my godmother. So a lot of my family lived all around here when they came out.
I saw that article in the B about the poll. Hopefully now there's some big. So yeah.
Young man.
We gotta show them what we got.
Oh, nah. San Diego only. San Diego family only. Yeah, bro. Yeah, definitely. I get the San Diego family in there.
So y'all can get behind the step and repeat.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, let me get this.
I just want to get one with a smile.
Perfect.
That's the count. Uno, dos, tres, ready?
Stay ready. Stay ready.
Nobody knows what we're doing because he now.
Yeah, they stay ready.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Well, once again, fam, you already know 80 West San Diego, 80 West Sacramento out here. We out in San Diego for the voter. Look at that. There we go. Community meeting. We out here in the community. Ocean View Boulevard. Amazing event. At a black-owned spot, black-owned caterer, black-owned politicians, black-owned community advocates, black-owned everything out here. Really having a conversation about what's going on in the upcoming election. So Measure B, Prop 16. If you're here in San Diego, it's a yes on Measure B. If you're also here in San Diego or somewhere else in California, it's a yes on Prop 16 as well. Bring affirmative action back with Prop 16. Create real community accountability for the police here in San Diego with yes on Measure B. So yes on Measure B. If you're here in San Diego, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, all right? Yes on Measure B and yes on Prop 16 here in the state of California. Once again, shout out to the community spot here on Ocean View Boulevard, Black-owned community center. Shout out to the caterers over there. I forgot the brother name, Damien, but got a bunch of plates for us. Amazing black-owned catering. So, and stay tuned because we're coming back out here to San Diego next month. We're gonna do the same thing. All right. ADOS is about political education, and so that's why we're here, and that's what we did today. All right, y'all. One. Yo, pleasure. See you soon. Right? No problem.